Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we translate confusing business documents. Today we are decoding BioCorRx's latest quarterly report, a company working on solutions for addiction. Let's see if their financials are as addictive as the problems they are trying to solve, or if they will leave you feeling like you need to go to rehab to recover from what you are about to hear. Before we dive in, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you are subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where you can discuss all things related to corporate finances and reports. First, a quick overview. BioCorRx had about 17 million shares of common stock outstanding as of mid-May. So what exactly does BioCorRx do? They develop treatment programs for substance abuse and related disorders, using things like medication-assisted treatment and peer recovery support. They are also working on new versions of naltrexone, a medication to combat addiction, with the goal of getting them approved by the Food and Drug Administration. They also have a weight loss program called BioCorRx. They also have a management agreement with a medical corporation. Basically, BioCorRx provides the business side while the medical folks handle the medical decisions. Since BioCorRx controls most of the financial decisions, they include the medical corporation in their financial reports. Also keep in mind that on March of this year, BioCorRx Pharmaceuticals Inc. purchased certain assets and assumed certain liabilities related to Lucemara, a US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. And approved prescription medication for opioid withdrawal. Alright, let's dive into the numbers. Let's start with the assets. They had about $24,000 in cash at the end of March, but it is important to mention that they had $88,000 at the end of December. Accounts receivable is at about $112,000, $133,000. Overall, their current assets, the things they can quickly turn into cash, are at about $566,000. In grant money they expect to receive soon. The inventory, which would be their products, is at $133,000. Overall, their current assets, the things they can quickly turn into cash, are at about $566,000. Then there are the longer term assets. Their property and equipment is only at about $15,000 after depreciation. They also have something called right to use assets at $189,000, which is probably for leased office space. Now, here's where things get more interesting. Intangible assets are valued at $3 dollar jars and dollar Jamira dollars. This is likely related to their acquisition of Lucemara and represents things like trademarks and the value of their customer base. They also booked $2.8 million in goodwill. This means that they believe that the purchase price had an inherent value related to potential growth that wasn't already booked in assets. Putting it all together, total assets reached $6.8 million. Now onto the liabilities. What they owe, accounts payable and accrued expenses, are high at $10.8 million. This includes $1.4 million they owe to related parties, people connected to the company. They also have short-term lease liabilities and notes payable. In total, their current liabilities, the ones due soon, are $13.4 million. They also have long-term liabilities, including a disaster loan from the government worth $70K and a liability related to the upfront purchase price for Lucemara of $349, $329K. Additionally, they have some royalty obligations of around $4.4 million due to related parties. Overall, total liabilities reach $18.6 million. Time to look at the net deficit section, which indicates how much more the company has lost than it has. There are many different types of stocks with small valuations and a line called additional paid in capital of around $72 million. This represents the amount of money investors paid above the stated value of the stocks, and it's very important in understanding the actual investor backing for the business. BioCorRx deficit reaches a whopping $84 million. All this results in the total deficit attributed to a whopping $84 million. All this results in the total deficit attributed to a whopping $84 million. All this results in, it's very important in understanding the actual investor backing for the business. BioCorRx deficit reaches a whopping $84 million. All this results in the total deficit attributed to a whopping $84 million. All this results in the total deficit attributed to a whopping $84 million. All this results in the total deficit attributed to a whopping $84 million. Let's switch gears and look at the income statement, which shows how they performed over the last 3 months. For revenues, we see that supply and distribution sales is at 1,044,899 dynes, while the remaining sources are at but in 44,000. Total operating expenses, the cost of running the business, came in at $1 million and $7 million. This means they are losing money on operations before you even factor in interest. It's also worth pointing out that the debt structure they have is very costly. Just the interest to related parties is at 161 net, loss of $81,000. When we look at it on a per share basis, it all translates to -6 cents per share compared to -14 cents. For the same period last year, though it's worth pointing out that shares outstanding more than doubled year over year, so it paints a distorted picture. Let's check out their cash flow, net cash used in operating activities, which means what they spent to keep the lights on was about $690,000. On a positive note, they brought in $626,000 from financing, so at the end of it all, they burned through about $64,000 in cash during the quarter. They started the quarter with $88,000, ended up with $24,000 in cash during the quarter. They started the quarter with $88,000, ended up with $24,000 in cash during the quarter. They started the quarter with $88,000, ended up with $24,000 in cash during the quarter. They started the quarter with $88,000, ended up with $24,000 in cash during the quarter. They started the quarter with $88,000, ended up with $24,000. Keep in mind that for the same period last year, they actually increased cash by $36,000. It is also very important to highlight that they had some significant non-cash transactions, including Accession 965K in stock related to debt conversion, 5K in stock related to debt conversion, or 153K in stock in connection with the APA Common T7K in stock issued related to promissory notes. As always, there are important points in the notes. They state that the financials depend on management estimates and assumptions, and they are at risk of differing. Now, this is really important. They state there is substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a going concern. This is a serious warning that they might not have enough money to operate in the near future. This means that investors should tread very carefully, as the company may not be around for the long term and the value of the stock may go to zero. On a positive note, they do mention that they got a grant for over $11 million from the National Institutes of Health to help fund their research on BICX 104. Finally, on the business combination with US WorldMeds, we see that if that deal had happened earlier, total revenue for the most recent quarter would have been about $135,000, and the net loss would have been about $876,000. For the same period last year, revenue and net loss would have been $39,000 and $129,000 and $1.2 million respectively. Moving on, the report mentions a legal battle with Pelicam. Basically, they were ordered to pay Pelicam over $400,000 for legal fees and other costs. Also, with Kate B. Devani, PhD, being instated on the board, we can see that she doesn't have a family relationship with any of the current officers or directors of the company, or participate in related party transactions. Also, it is noted she will be paid a $15,000 cash stipend, along with common stock valued at $5,000 each quarter. Also, it is worth mentioning that their advertising budget is basically non-existent, coming at just a few $1,000s per quarter. Alright, now what's my take on BioCorRx? Well, to put it simply, these financials are really concerning. While revenue increased substantially thanks to the recent acquisition, they are still losing money. They are extremely reliant on debt. Some of it is structured in a way that might require them to issue more stock. And the warning about the company's ability to continue as a going concern cannot be ignored. Despite the potential of their research and the good they are trying to do, the financial risks are just too high right now. The lack of advertising might be a red flag that they are struggling to acquire new customers. Alright, that's our breakdown of BioCorRx's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.